Good morning, everyone. Hello. A very good morning to all of you from London. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Inside HR from HR Review, the series of webinars from HR, recruitment and management practitioners that tackle the latest topics and trends affecting organisations large and small across the UK and beyond. Today we bring you a special edition that focuses on simplifying high-volume recruitment hiring with the right tools. And we've partnered with leading software solutions provider ISIMS to bring you the very latest thinking in this area. For those of you who are regular listeners to Inside HR, you might remember that we did our first special edition with ISIMS almost exactly a year ago today. And it's a real pleasure to have them back with us this morning so that we can benefit from their expertise. Before we do that, let me remind you of the ways in which you can take part over the next hour. You can vote in our polls, the first of which we're going to launch shortly, by clicking on the vote button that's beneath your slide deck that you can see on your screen. And you can send questions for me to put to our special guest, who I will introduce in a moment, by clicking on the question button. And you can rate the webinar too, and we always really do value your feedback, so please get clicking on the rate this button as well. You can follow us on Twitter, and you can catch up on all the latest HR and management news and features by going to hrreview.co.uk. Lastly, if you click on the attachments button underneath the slide deck there, you'll find guides to all of ISIM's recruitment solutions, which they provide to over 3,500 customers globally in 70 different countries, processing, get this, more than 32 million job applications a year, which is just a remarkable figure. There's a buyer's guide to applicant tracking systems, ATSs, in there as well. And let me, without further ado, introduce our special guest, our speaker for this morning. It's James Atkin, who's been working within the recruitment software industry since 2012. He currently serves as International Account Manager at ISIMS. Within this role, James is responsible for all aspects of customer satisfaction within the international customer base that we just talked about, finding the best business solutions to fit customers' needs and offering best practice recommendations. With 5 years of experience in implementation and account management, James is known for empowering his customers to maximize the benefits recruitment technology can deliver in order to increase recruitment performance. And I'm delighted to say that James joins us on the line this morning. Good morning, James.
Good morning, James. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for your time.
So that's not going to be confusing. That's going to be an hour of the James show. So we've got James and James. So hopefully we won't confuse you. You'll know who's talking. But James, it's a real pleasure to have you with us this morning. Let's take a quick look at the agenda before I let you loose, James. So we're going to basically three main sections to what we're going to be talking about today. First, we're going to take a look at the hiring culture in 2017, understanding the consumer mindset that now permeates recruitment. We're going to talk about the complexities of high-volume hiring and talent acquisition, because obviously, as all of you who are listening, I'm sure know, it is a very complex area, or can be at least, and we're going to hopefully try and simplify that for you and bring the ISIMS brand of wisdom to that. And then we're going to talk about the tech solutions that ISIMS obviously are renowned for, keeping up with the demand in the current marketplace. And James obviously is going to guide us through all of that. Before we start, we want to start off, as we often do on Inside HR, we just want to start off by asking your opinion and getting you guys involved straight away. So we're asking a very simple question first off, and remember, you can click on the vote button underneath your slide deck to answer this question. What is your biggest high-volume hiring and or recruiting challenge that you face in your business? Is it A, filling open jobs quickly? Is it B, a lack of data or metrics or reporting that helps you make those decisions and fill those roles? Is it C, manual or inefficient processes within your organization? Is it D, that the tools that you use are not well integrated, so your different software systems are not talking to each other, or even different departments within your business? Or is it E, another reason? And maybe you can talk about those other reasons when you put questions to us for us in the last 15 minutes of the hour. So those are your options, A, B, C, D, or E. Please click on the Vote Now button, and we'll go back and look at results in about sort of 15 minutes or so. So James, let's start off by talking about the hiring culture today, and as we've got up there on the slide that our audience can see, it is very much consumer-centric now, isn't it? So let's just start off by saying what we mean by the consumer-centric hiring culture.
Thank you, James. Yes, so I do definitely want to start with this notion of consumer-centric, and the presentation today will come on to discuss why we support this belief. But the challenge of attracting, hiring and retaining talent in today's consumer-minded job market is significantly growing.
Mm.
And I'm going to go as bold as saying recruiting has become too important to get wrong.
Sure.
Like positioning a business to sell to the consumer, ensuring it has the right skills and expertise, the right product offering, an engaging brand, the correct tools, let's say, to underpin and support that activity. Recruitment must now be seen as a strategic part of your business's success.
That's really interesting. So you're talking, I'm assuming that the conversations that you're having with your clients and the language that you're using in terms of your recruitment strategy is similar to the language that you're using when you're talking about your product strategy or your sales strategy. Is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, James. So, yeah, without that best-in-breed strategy to succeed in your business world, your recruitment is going to potentially fail or suffer badly if you don't get that right also. That's
really interesting. So recruitment has to be seen as a strategic component of the business. I mean, that's always been true, but more so today. But let's just delve a little bit deeper into what we're calling here the consumer mindset. So that involves understanding what job seekers are looking for, and how do you go about dealing with that at iSIMS with your clients?
Yeah, great question, James. And maybe to move to the next slide, we can begin to start tackling some of that if we can. So, what does the consumer, our job seeker, want today? What is it they think about? So, today's consumers, our candidates, approach job seeking like any other major purchase, as we've discussed, and from research to comparison to making that final decision to buy. At the end of the day, however, James, the consumer wants this to be a really simple exercise, as we've touched on. According to research, one key stat here is most people stick around on a website for less than 60 seconds. I think the average today is about 58 seconds. And if we don't capture that person's attention, if they don't find what they're looking for, or if there are no calls to action that entice them to hang around for longer, it's simple enough. We are going to lose that person's attention. We're going to lose them from our.
That's remarkable. So you've got 58 seconds to capture someone's attention and interest in a potential role or just your brand, your employer brand in general, which is amazing. Just to address the slide that we've got on the screen here, because it's quite an interesting slide. We've got 4 bars, and we're talking about what job seekers want and think. And we've sort of compared it to sort of 4 different consumer services underneath there, all of which are quite interesting, Joe. So do you want to just quickly take us through what we've got on the screen there and those statistics, those percentages that are on there as well for our audience?
Definitely, yeah. And I guess to preface this, I might say that now that there are masters in the consumer-facing world that help make our buying decisions really simple, dare I say it, our job seeker demands that same level of simplicity. So in front of us, we're talking about making searching for a job on job search sites really simple. So what is it that these guys want? They want to be able to instantly mark jobs as ones that I'm not interested in or ones that I am interested in. Tinder is a great example.
Swipe left or swipe right?
Quite possibly, or a means like that, James. Yeah, to make it really easy to identify what is and what isn't of interest to that candidate. They also want to understand custom recommendations based on previous job preferences, job searches, and Netflix is a great example of this in practice today. Amazon makes it really easy for the consumer to navigate their website on a mobile device, on a desktop, to make it kind of on the go experience, the same user experience as you would get in any of those medium. And an example from Yelp, for example, the ability to sort jobs quickly, easily by others' reviews and recommendations. In short, let's keep it really simple. Let's make it really simple. I'm going to say it's critically important we understand today's job seekers' mindset and empower them with the means of achieving what they came looking for really quickly, really easily.
That's fascinating. So people's interest in jobs and in companies and in brands from an employment perspective is very similar to the way they select the TV that they want to watch, the products that they want to buy. And it's tapping into that mindset that is going to help your recruitment become a lot more effective. That's effectively what we're saying here, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. People get that everyday experience in most other buying decisions, in most other buying circumstances. They are familiar with how easy it can be to locate a movie in Netflix or find that purchase in Amazon. They're expecting the same outcome or the same experience when they come to search for and apply for their jobs today.
Fascinating. So that's a slide where we've taken it and made it into something quite simple. Let's talk now about the complexities of high volume hiring. You know, we're talking about often large companies, like a lot of the ones that you work with across the world. There are huge complexities to this process as well, aren't there, James? Just walk us through some of those.
Sure thing. Yeah, thank you. So we get it. The complexities of high volume hiring. The hiring landscape is complex, I'm going to say, and with high volume hiring, there are often common headaches across industries and organizations, James. To start, many industries face high turnover rates. I think this is commonplace. We've got stats that talk about 5% monthly turnover, and there are a number of potential causes for this. There are also complexities around lengthy screening and hire periods, high stress seasonal variations, hospitality and retail in particular. This is a prevalent complexity, and poorly built talent pipelines and employer branding can also impact and add a layer of complexity to our higher volume hiring world. So whilst I'm not going to belittle any of those complexities, James, at iCIMS, I'm going to say none of these are insurmountable, and again, kind of we'll fall back on some of the ways in which we can overcome those.
That's really interesting. And like I said, I work for a retail business. I'm constantly talking about how many weeks we are before Christmas now, and that obviously there is a very sort of short-term hiring problem for that industry where they have to get in a large number of workers on a short-term contract to cover a specific part of the year, and that has to run alongside their longer-term talent pipeline and their longer-term recruitment as well. So you've got actually often the same industry and the same company almost running lots of different types of recruitment, which is something that iCIMS are familiar with the clients that they work with, aren't they, James?
You're absolutely correct. Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. So that ability to support multiple different processes that may be running in parallel, dependent on requirements, the needs, the industry, the season, absolutely we need to make that one centralized and coherent and manageable process.
And one last thing before we move on from the slide, I remember last year we're talking to when we did the special edition last year with iCIMS. Chris, Larry, and I spent quite a lot of time talking about defining the time to fill, defining the time to hire, and often the issue within businesses is that actually there's not a common definition of what time to fill is and how long it is taking people to go from having the vacancy created to having the person start that job, and whether it was when they'd had a successful interview, whether it was when they actually arrived at their desk for their first morning, and often making sure that you're all speaking the same language throughout the organization about recruitment, particularly with that time to fill definition, was for Chris, and when we talked to iCIMS last year, was a really important part of starting that process and aligning all of your recruitment activity.
Yeah, and I would echo that. So definitely, there's I guess variations in how people define their time to fill, whether that's from when that job is first approved internally to be posted to when that bum hits that seat. Or whether we're talking about when that job is first posted to the Joe public and then we have an offer that is accepted. Obviously, there are many variations in or many factors to consider about the phrase from when approval starts through to when an offer is accepted and that candidate actually starts in that role. And sometimes those variations are just not going to help provide us with meaningful statistics. For example, there are notice periods to consider, and there are different things that we have to potentially navigate with permits, etc. So it might be the best to look at the time from when that job is first posted to when that offer is accepted as a stable metric for our time to fill there.
Fantastic. So we're assuming obviously this morning that a lot of the people that have tuned in to listen to us are thinking about changing their recruitment process or their recruitment software solution or whatever it is. Let's firstly talk about the cost of, and we've got people answering a poll at the moment telling us what their issues are with their recruitment. But let's first talk about the cost of not addressing this, the cost of not having an efficient recruitment solution and platform for your business to do all of the things that we've talked about and to provide that consumer feel to your recruitment process.
Sure thing. Yeah, thanks, James. So those complexities, if left unchecked, if we put on a brave face today and carry on regardless, as seen here, the costs of doing nothing to tackle these complexities can be significant. The longer a position remains open for, the greater the loss in productivity and revenue. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. According to research here from CEB, we're talking an average of £9.5 million in lost revenue and recruiting efforts per 1,000 open positions.
That's a very high figure, isn't it? That's remarkable.
Remarkable. 9,500 per open position. Based on their investigations there. Whilst that open position costs the company, perhaps the cost of hiring the wrong candidate can be even more detrimental to the business than leaving a role unfilled. Of course, your positions need to be filled quickly. That's always going to be a demand from the business, but they still need to be filled with the right people to avoid future turnover costs. We don't want to keep going through the same tedious exercise potentially of having to find that right candidate, get them into the position only to find out that they weren't fit for the role. So it's important that we find the right people as part of that as well.
Absolutely. And that last point on the slide there, sorry, Jay, that last point on the slide there about the lack of data and analytics as well.
Sure.
It kind of speaks to what we were just talking about earlier, but if you haven't got a way of measuring the situation, then you haven't got a solution to tackle it, is surely. So I think we talked about this again with ISIMS last year. The importance of gathering the right data and the right analytics is crucial to getting an efficient mass hiring process.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The talent acquisition impacts key parts of the business, from revenue and profit to productivity and brand, not to mention that ability to grow and innovate by hiring people with the skills your organization needs. Without data and analytics, organizations have no way of quantifying their high volume hiring efforts either. Organizations that don't have the ability to compare data from previous seasons, let's say, or years of recruitment to help them uncover their top sourcing strategies, the key sourcing times, the duration it takes to find and hire those right people, how to improve their workflows. Those guys cannot improve high volume hiring recruitment effectively and accurately.
Sure. So as you know, James, we've sat over the last week, and you guys at ISIMS have come up with some tips to start off companies looking at this in terms of what they can do straight away to start improving their recruitment process. So let's move on to those now.
Absolutely.
So here we go. So firstly, you're telling your clients to assess the landscape. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a step back. We've got a problem here. We need to understand what we can do to tackle it. Determine your unique challenges and hiring needs, and by that, for example, let's evaluate the future company goals and current obstacles. Let's start at that point. Let's decide if the current staffing levels are sufficient to achieve success. Let's draw a line there. Gather competitive intelligence. Conduct research on your competitors to gain business insight. That sounds straightforward.
So yeah, find out what the others are doing as well.
It's important, absolutely, definitely. If we are to stay ahead of that curve, if we are to ride that wave, we need to be in advance of those guys, if not keeping toe to toe with them. Identify key areas of your organisation as well for development and improvement. So it's both looking at kind of an internally as well as externally.
So this is something that's very closely aligned with your business strategy. I know that's an obvious thing to say, and HR practitioners listening and all over the place will be talking. They hear the word alignment a lot, but this is this is really interesting that at a company like iSIMS, you are talking to your clients and you're telling them the place to start, as always, the starting point for any recruitment process is assessing your business needs and making sure that it all fits in with your strategy.
Yeah, very much so, and that's where my role in iSIMS comes into play. I guess I have a visibility into our different customers' challenges, what they're doing to overcome that, and obviously to impart that advice and experience and kind of suggest ways in which others are implementing processes to overcome those complexities. Obviously from our own thinking there, providing thought leadership on how we can manage these complexities in today's consumer-centric job seeker market.
Sure, because there's a remarkable stat. Sorry, James, there's a remarkable stat on the screen. 61% of CEOs don't know where to start when changing their strategy for attracting and retaining talent. That must be, from your perspective, as you were just talking about your role with iSIMS, is that a stat that you find easy to believe? Because it's something that I find from outside looking in, quite hard to believe.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to the level of understanding and focus at the top in businesses that recruitment is given today. Perhaps historically, CEOs haven't focused enough of their time and attention on their business's recruitment efforts. They haven't had a high enough involvement in that activity. Taking it straight back to the fact that this is a critical part of your business's success. We need this to be understood, and we need the CEO's involvement, the guy at the top's involvement, so that they understand that it is a strategic component of their business's success moving forwards.
Okay, so tip 1, assess the landscape, and obviously the bottom bullet point there, learn from the experts. Obviously, staying up to date on current trends, developments from thought leaders, and subscribing to key publications. I'm sure lots of our listeners do that. Obviously, you're not allowed to say it, so I will talk to people like iSIMS as well. But let's move it on to tip number 2. And this is talking about creating that company brand. And basically, again, maybe 10 years ago, we were talking about the two faces of the brand, the employer brand and the consumer brand. That's now pretty much the same thing. Is that right?
So I still feel these play hand in hand. There are differences in how you would sell a company to the consumer to how you'd sell it to your employees.
Okay.
There are subtleties in that. Of course, we need one cohesive message, but there are subtle differences. Ways in which to do that, some tips on what we need to begin leveraging a social media presence. And I do just want to call out the stat on the slide here, James. I'm going to say only half of HR professionals use corporate social media profiles to promote open positions and maintain their brand.
Which again, in 2017 is something that's hard to believe, isn't it? I mean, right. Social media has become an integral part of all aspects of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So contrast that stat with the fact that fully 90% of marketers say their corporate social media presence is important to their business. So again,
we're dealing with that consumer brand, 90% of people are doing it, where the employer brand, only 50% of HR professionals are using social media in that sense.
That's absolutely correct, yeah. So we need to leverage social media sites to convey that company brand and values and engage those passive candidates, keep our followers up to date on company news and events, regular marketing and communications updates. We need to, again, acknowledge this is a consumer-centric target audience we're now dealing with, and we need to kind of tap into those means of engaging that audience.
Can I just ask, James, in your work with your clients, when you bring up social media and developing a social media presence and strategy to help your recruitment, what kind of reaction does that get from your clients? Is there still a sort of a certain snobbery attached to social media, or are companies really beginning to embrace it now, at least the ones that you're working with? Yeah,
I think there's an initial education phase, James, and I think this technology world is fast moving. Historically, social media has been seen as a means of kind of communicating with each other rather than necessarily a business tool. That is changing now, and we're seeing hundreds of social networks that we can leverage. So there is that initial education piece with the customers we work with. I think it's about breaking that down, or making it really easy to understand which are the best social networks for that business, for that industry, what times a day we should be engaging, or we should be posting out on those networks that are going to attract or capture the largest audience, making it really simple to tap into employees' social media presence, so we can begin leveraging that aspect and amplify our recruitment activities through that means also. It is a growing tool that we are seeing much higher levels of adoption amongst our customers now, however.
Fantastic. So we've assessed the landscape. We've created a strong company brand. Next is reaching your target candidates. Just go into a little bit, James, about how companies can do that once they've taken your first two tips. Yeah,
sure thing. And again, we've touched on it at some length. I think another relevant stat about leveraging social media is the one on site here. We're calling out the fact that 57% of job seekers said that they used social media at least once a month to learn about potential employers. And actually, maybe an even more powerful stat here is for millennials, the power of social media is higher still. Fully 73% of millennials report they found their last position through a social media site.
73%, that is remarkable, nearly three quarters.
Right, absolutely. And again, these guys are more and more prevalent in the job seeker market now. We need to make sure we are catering for their needs, let's say, and leveraging your social media presence, your corporate and company social media presence, those connections to extend your target audience. Other means, I think, touching elsewhere outside of social media, job boards, establishing your candidate's profile can help you reach them. Kind of determine what the key candidate skills you need for success. What is that candidate profile? Leveraging data analytics to identify historically kind of the most successful, effective methods of targeting those people as well is important. Again, falling back onto that metrics piece, James. And a staff referral in program. I think this is relevant as well. Allow current staff members to easily submit quality candidates they know through a staff referral portal. This is a perhaps untapped source of candidates that companies don't leverage enough. We kind of offer incentives for successful hires to increase participation and staff engagement in those programs, and tie that back into your social media recruitment activities as well. Make it simple for those guys to attack people, for that application to flow through to you from that social network.
No, I think that's a fascinating aspect. It's something that is often not mentioned is your existing staff and the staff referral program. I work for a retail business based in London. We have a staff referral program, and I can't quote the exact stats now because I can't remember them, but we did a brief study of our recruitment success and contrasted our regular recruitment with people hired through the staff referral program, and we found that the staff that came through that program were a lot more likely to stay longer, were a lot more likely to gain promotion within their first year of employment. And we offered a small financial incentive to people referring a friend to the business, and it's something that we've seen a lot of success with where I work. So I'm really interested to see that that's part of the tips that you're giving out to your clients as well, James.
Yeah, thank you, James, for calling that out as well. We see a greater cultural fit in the candidate that is referred through that referral program. We see those candidates hitting the ground running much quicker. They have a much greater appreciation for the business they're joining through that connection they have with a member of that staff already. We see kind of productivity milestones being hit much earlier, based on the fact that they knew what they were subscribing to. For example, that candidate was effectively sourced by someone who knew about the company and who knew about the candidate and could identify that would be a relevant fit and someone who had the skills that would marry well with that business.
And it's an interesting facet of engagement for existing staff as well, isn't it? Because they then they feel like they're becoming involved in the recruitment process and the running of the business. Let's move it on, James, to talking about tip 4. So we've reached our target candidates. The fourth tip that you're offering today is, and HR managers will be aware, we talk a lot on InsideHR about the relationship with line managers, with operational managers. ISIMs are no different. We're talking about empowering line managers. Just explain how you would advise businesses to do that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure thing. I mean, the candidate today, the job seeker, our consumer, these guys use mobile devices for researching, for applying for vacancies, for submitting applications. It's ever present now in today's job seeker market. With line managers in high volume hiring organizations constantly on the go, experiencing seasonal peaks and troughs, experiencing the recruitment alongside their day-to-day, the availability to them of technology in the palm of their hand that supports their recruitment efforts is essential. It's essential. There are a number of interesting stats around this. I think based on a recent survey, 95% here of line managers, of hiring managers, agree that 5 years from now, most of their interviews are going to take place using some form of mobile device. It's going to become, it's here and now, as well as going to become even more popular. We need to make sure hiring managers have all of the tools at their disposal to stay ahead of that curve, to ride this wave, and to make this as simple and easy for them. And circling back to what we talked about a couple of slides previously, to simplify, to make screening processes, to make our hiring time to fill much easier, much simpler, much shorter, and make sure we're capturing that top talent and not missing out on losing them elsewhere.
Sure. And talking about going full circle, the last tip that you're providing, and just remember people, we are about to bring you the results of the poll right after this. So if you haven't voted yet, please do click on that vote button and vote now. The last tip, again, we're back to data and metrics and what you measure to make these decisions. So the last tip is making sure that companies are tracking those key metrics.
Yeah. What is the source of hire? What is your time to fill? What is your cost per vacancy? Let's capture all that and let's analyze that. How is that differing for different areas of the business? How is that differing for different locations in your global recruitment efforts? Where are there possible bottlenecks in your current processes that are slowing down hiring? To get visibility into that, we need to have some sort of talent acquisition software capability that allows you to track and record all of that, and develop ongoing customized reports specific to your organization. You can keep watch on this information. KPIs as well, measure the quality of hire, conduct regular assessments of the quality of work, the staff efficiency, participation in training programs, attainment of individual goals, for example. All of this provides an ongoing view and a holistic view again of kind of your success in this area. And whilst it's easy to say, we need to make sure we are capturing all of that information in a centralized location to be able to pull some of these powerful metrics off the back of that.
What's fascinating from a lot of the conversations we've had over the course of the last couple of years on InsideHR is that often when we talk about data, we're talking about data that companies are actually in other ways, or maybe in exactly that way, are already gathering. So the data already exists. It's about how they're actually using it and whether someone is actually looking at that data and using it to make decisions. So when we talk about tracking those key metrics, often that data already exists in the organization, James. Is that something that you found with your clients?
Yeah. I think that is certainly the case in certainly in new customers. They've come to us with a challenge of perhaps this information is there, they're just not able to tap into it. And you need real time data now. You need this information might exist, but it might take a while to consolidate, to collate. You need this at real time in that high volume hiring world that we're talking about today. So that information is no good if it comes to us a week or so too late. We need to kind of see it live, if you will, to understand kind of where we need to best focus our attentions, where it is we've got possible bottlenecks that we need to resolve to iron out to make sure we're again not missing out. So whilst that data might be there, we need some simple, robust tools to help you leverage and understand, break that data down right here, right now.
Brilliant. So there we are, 5 tips that you can take away in terms of tackling high volume recruitment in 2017. We're about halfway through now, and I'm just going to remind you that James is going to be answering your questions towards the end of the webinar. The last 10 minutes or so we've left for James to tackle your questions, so please do send those to us by clicking on the questions button. We've already got some coming in, so thank you very much for those. It now is time for me to bring you the results of our first poll. So remember, we asked you, what is the biggest high volume hiring or recruiting challenge that you're facing in your business today? Was it A, filling open jobs quickly? Was it B, a lack of data or metrics or reporting? Was it C, inefficient manual processes? Was it D, tools not being very well integrated together? Or was it E, some other reason why that was the case? And we're going to get James's reaction straight away to this. So what is the biggest high volume recruitment challenge? 40% said it was filling open jobs quickly. So they were worried about the cost of delay and the amount of time to fill that they're experiencing in their organization. 36% said that it was manual or inefficient processes. So they're just not up to date with the latest technology, which is something I know we're going to talk about in the second half of this hour. 19% said their tools were not well integrated, and just 2% said it was a lack of data, with 4% saying there was another reason. So, James, pretty much split. The main problems seem to be filling those open jobs quickly, and recruitment managers and HR managers dealing with inefficient processes or even manual processes. Is that reflective of the industry as you see, or the market as you see it at the moment?
Yeah, I'm pleased to say it is. That is typical to what we see. I would have seen a lack of data higher, perhaps based on kind of other conversations we've had, other customers we're speaking with. Filling open jobs, manual processes. I think, yeah, naturally, the audience perhaps today are going to be coming to this. I'm just trying to look for ways in which we can improve those two areas. I think that's not a surprise to me. I think keeping. Go on,
sorry,
please,
James, carry on. No. I was just going to say the 2% that are reporting that it's a lack of data that's the problem. Perhaps speaks to what we were talking about earlier. The data exists. The data is there.
Yeah.
Companies are gathering that data. It's what they're then able to do with it.
That's right. That's right. And I think understanding kind of perhaps the power that data can provide, if we can cut it in the right way, or if we can kind of compare that and contrast that with perhaps other ways in which we're doing this in the world of high volume today, that's where ISINs can come in, help a customer analyze that, and obviously therefore leverage it to improve their performance, improve their effectiveness, efficiency.
Okay, so given the result of the first poll and what you've told us there, we're going to launch a very quick second poll. This is a slight first for us on InsideHR. What we want you guys to do is going to be a snap poll. We're going to do it really quickly. So we're going to give you about 30 seconds to a minute to answer this question. How satisfied are you with the software that your organization uses to manage high volume recruitment, hiring and recruiting? So very quickly, click on that vote button at the bottom of your slide deck and answer A, very satisfied, B, moderately satisfied, C, just satisfied, D, not satisfied, or E, you're just not using any software solution at all at the moment. So very quickly now, click on that button. Answer A, B, C, D, or E. Obviously, James, I guess from ISIM's perspective, we're hoping that D and E, no software at all or not satisfied, is the key answer there, because then we know that we're talking to potential clients. But when you're going into the businesses that you're working with, are they often starting from a base of having no software at all? Or are you going in to sort of provide incremental improvements to the system that they've already got, or is it a mix of the two?
Yeah, really a mix of the two now. I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago when I joined the industry, it was almost no software. The talent acquisition software landscape is now very complex. There are a number of different solutions out there at various different levels. We often have customers or customers coming to us and saying that right now they've got a solution, it's just not fit for their needs. We do have it, but we're just not satisfied. It's not performing in the way we need it to. So ISIMs, please help. But that also in the UK, I think more so perhaps less so perhaps in the US now is kind of we've got also customers coming to us with no solution right now. They're doing things offline. They're doing things through spreadsheets, and of course there are challenges afoot with those equally. So yeah, again, I'm expecting a bit of a mix here, but perhaps we'll see shortly.
Oh yeah, we will. Let's give it another 20 seconds or so. In the meantime, just quickly, one of the answers there that saw about 19-20% in our first poll was tools not being well integrated. And just talk to us a little bit about what integration, what that means, and how your software solution for recruitment needs to integrate with your other HR and people management systems.
Yeah, great question. So we're going to come on to touch on kind of a possible solution there. But we in the world that is HR recruitment today, there are thousands of tools out there that maybe support the core recruitment. They may support you with background checking, with reference, with assessments, with elements of screening, elements of sourcing. All of these tools, if disparate, if not connected together, can perform a purpose, but we again fall back on the fact that they might be not providing us with the most powerful solution. They're operating independently. We don't have any holistic view of data in each of these systems. We're not kind of easily managing them from a centralized location. We've got inefficiencies that are introduced into the process as a result of that. So importance of having all of your processes, if you will, kind of consolidated into the one platform is where items come in, and James, I'm going to touch on that with our Unify platform, I think, shortly. But yeah, an interesting stat. Again, I think right now the top technology in our world is growing. It's ever present. There are more and more solutions involved in a best-in-class recruitment activity. We need a way to easily connect all of those pieces together to have one coherent process.
Absolutely. Okay, so the results are in from our Snap poll. How satisfied are you with the software your organization currently uses to manage high volume hiring and recruiting? The biggest answer, I guess on one aspect, sadly, on one aspect, we hoped, is that 55% are saying that they're not satisfied with their current solution, and 18% are saying that they have no software at all. So that's 73% of our respondents saying that they're either not satisfied or have no solution in place. So to those 73% of you, please listen very closely to the next 20 minutes, because James is going to walk us through some of the things that you can do to deal with that. So let's move this on, James, and as you just said, let's talk about the tools that are available. It's time to use the best tools that are out there to make sure that you are managing that high volume recruitment process as best as possible and getting the best people into your organization. So James, take it away. Talk to us about what the best tools are that are out there today.
Yeah, sure thing. I think we can probably skip to slide 18 there, James, if you could. And we talked about, I think, this one and the results there, so we can jump through to the next one. And I'm going to say I get it. It's hard to keep up with the demands of recruiting when looking to first find and then hire a large number of candidates. I think we're here today to learn about this, or to understand how we can come high volume hiring.
Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard, James?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's lots of different elements. I think high volume hiring relies on an effective and efficient hiring process. Again, we've got lots of different solutions. We've got lots of different means of attracting candidates. We've got lots of different profiles involved. There are seasonal variations. Again, I think it takes it back to some of those complexities we touched on earlier. And at the end, an end-to-end, if you will, robust talent acquisition platform with a platform as a service framework like InsiderHR can help alleviate process redundancies, so businesses can fill roles quickly with top talent. With the right technology that nurtures talent pools and bolsters candidate pipelines, that caters to candidates and hiring managers on the go. We've touched on that one, James. That makes it simple to embrace social media for recruitment. I think this is an important one, as we touched on the employees video. We saw a stat about how prevalent that is becoming now in screening, in understanding the cultural fit of candidates, not just going by via CV or an application, that engages staff referrals, that uses powerful integrations, that centralizes data. Organizations can garner the attention of top consumer-minded candidates through the right technology here. So, yeah, the slide we're looking at, the talent acquisition landscape is enormously complex, as perhaps illustrated, thousands of tools out there. And when managing high volume hiring, we are going to put ourselves in the middle of this and say you need the right hiring tools that will ideally speak to one another and won't lag behind. iCIMS Unify, as mooted, brings all of those tools together, eliminating manual and redundant data entry, offering one centralized recruiting platform, a hub, if you will, that our core talent acquisition needs can be driven, orchestrated from.
So as it says on the screen there, James, it's a holistic strategy. It's something that brings all of the different tools that are in the armory in terms of recruitment together into one system.
That's right. Yeah, and Unify offers that holistic view of your strategies into one single system, a record, eradicating, let's say, multiple logins, disparate systems. Again, kind of making it simple, making it easy for your talent platform to integrate harmoniously with your pre-existing ERP or HR platform, having that data transfer immediate, real time, so that we have a robust solution that allows you to maximize your high volume hiring even further. Again, eliminating, redundancies.
Sure. So we've got a diagram on the screen here, James, about how the iCIMS platform sort of easily integrates with everything. Just talk us through what we can see there.
Yeah, sure. So based on some of the market analysts out there, Forrester and G2, iCIMS is a platform that easily connects all of these tools together, as discussed. And I think to have a best-in-class, high-volume talent acquisition activity, we're talking about we need a strategy and an offering that can support that. iCIMS is certainly considered one of the leaders in that regard in Forrester's eyes. And again, looking at satisfaction and presence, again, iCIMS is one of the top performers in this regard. Taking it back to that best in breed out there, Unify allows you to pull all of the best in breed solutions that may be for background checking, maybe for references, that may be for assessments, and connect them into this one central location so that we can have a coherent process.
Great. So this is the slide where we give you the opportunity, James, to have a little pitch for iCIMS. So I know that obviously iCIMS are very proud of their sort of almost customer service rather than client service, their sort of customer service record with their clients, the fact that companies stay with you once they come on board with your recruitment solution. They stay with you for a number of years, and you've won a number of awards recently for this software. So this is your chance, 30 seconds. Tell us all about that and why those awards have gone to iCIMS.
Yeah, sure. Well, so yeah, keeping it high level here, through a commitment to innovate and provide, I guess, easy to use software, offer unrivaled customer support. I think there's a few ingredients there that we've now over 3,500 contracted customers around the world. Last year, iCIMS was able to grow 50% faster in the enterprise segment than Oracle, SAP, IBM, and Workday combined.
Okay.
We've won awards, as you touched on there, James. Let's call out some 28 customer service awards specifically since 2008, and I think this is kind of at the heart of what my role is, of course, to make sure we're allowing our customers to gain maximum success from their iCIMS technology that is hopefully at the core of their recruitment activity. We have some of the highest NPS scores in the industry. We boast a 105% net revenue retention from our loyal customers, and I think that validates that companies stay and grow with iCIMS.
Fantastic. And just quickly, I know we on InsideHR we try and speak as much as we can to all industries and all business sizes. But one of iCIMS' key capabilities is obviously its global presence and its ability. And when we're talking about high volume recruitment, we really are talking about high volume across a number of different countries as well, aren't we?
Yeah, that's right. iCIMS is used in more than 86 countries around the world now, I believe. And whether our customers are based in the US, in Europe, anywhere else in the world, we are here for you in person and live. We have an in-house customer care army, if you will, that with help desk located in Europe, in the US, in Asia. All of these are iSIMS employees. We have 24/5 candidate support as well as part of that. We have a hybrid hosting environment now here in the EU. I think that's certainly with GDPR on the horizon, and something that's close to all of us. Customer implementations are conducted in-house by iSIMS implementation managers and functional teams. We don't outsource any of that activity. We have the ability for multilingual career portals to offer that truly personalized and tailored global job seeker experience, which is important, as we touched on, to appeal to that candidate in how they interact with other solutions, websites, applications out there today. And as I said, kind of protection and security. Right now, we're heavily focused on the incoming GDPR. We have a EU-US Privacy Shield certification, which ensures our data is reliable, accurate, and complete now as part of specifications laid down by the EU.
Sure, and I know a lot of people are going to be thinking about GDPR over the next, well, already thinking about it, and we'll be thinking about it a lot over the next few months. Just before, because I'm aware that we're cutting into our question time, James, and I know we've got some fantastic questions to put to you before we close in about 10 minutes' time or so. Just before we do that, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about some specific clients and case studies that you've been working with. So we've picked out 3 here, haven't we? A range of businesses. So let's start with a company such as AllSaints. AllSaints, who they're a leading fashion retailer in the UK. They sell menswear, women's wear, shoes, accessories. They've got around 230 stores, I think, across 27 different countries, which UK consumers might not be aware of, which includes obviously France, the US, Canada, Russia, South Korea, and Taiwan. So the challenge, obviously, AllSaints came to you, struggling to meet recruitment goals. Talk us through the challenge. Talk us through the solution that you provided and what the result was.
Yeah, so they were tasked with expanding their brand globally, and they needed to look for ways to improve that recruitment process. So hiring managers were set up for success. Their hiring managers being perhaps posted in stores across the country, across the world, with a previously time-consuming manual recruitment workflow. Obviously, they were falling hugely behind, and they were having to leverage third-party agencies as a necessary evil, if you will, to help them fill those roles during that peak hiring season. I think this is a great example for what we've discussed today. Applications flooded into a mailbox, for example. They tried to keep up with that and screen that as best they can, but it was a disorganized system that lacked any structure, and the chances of overlooking the ideal candidate were high at the time.
So they looked for a software solution that would help them deal with the volume of applications that they were having to go through. Just talk about the solution that iSIMS provided for specifically to AllSaints, and how that worked for them and what the results were.
Yeah, sure thing. So we implemented a simple solution, but one that could be leveraged by their hiring managers. And I say simple, there were complexities behind it, but we made it very easy for their hiring managers to manage recruitment within their stores. And having, again, mobile applications to allow them to leverage this, having a very straightforward process which allowed them to quickly identify candidates that were a suit for their business, and move them quickly through their workflow, capturing the relevant information, having the relevant conversations. It was I guess as a result of this, maybe moving on to that again in light of time here, after 2 years of being with iSIMS, AllSaints talked about an incredible decrease, in their time to fill. Their team's productivity skyrocketed. They talked about saving hundreds of working hours through that streamlined workflow, and they were able to decrease their recruitment spend significantly up to perhaps 67%, due to the no longer need to rely solely on third-party agencies.
Sure, and I mean, in retail, obviously time to fill is hugely important in any industry, but in retail there is a direct line, isn't there, between a vacancy and between lost revenue and lost sales. Sadly, we haven't got a chance to go through Nuance and through Kate Spade as well, but obviously very different companies with whom your solution also provided some really tangible results. I'm desperate to get to our questions from our audience because they are flooding onto the screen in front of me here, and we're going to jump straight in, James, if that's all right with you.
Cool.
So. Let's have a look here. So the source of the stat, first of all, about millennials and social media, and let's just talk generally about it. Let's go back quickly and talk about millennials, because obviously it's a word that appears a lot in just HR and management literature everywhere now. We're quite fond of talking about people in age group bands, whether it's Gen X, Gen Y, millennial. Firstly, the question actually asks what the source for the millennial social media stat was that you gave. I think it was 73% you said secured their last role through social media. But just also generally talk about how iSIMS and their solution has had to adapt to millennials and why millennials are different in their job-seeking habits to maybe people sort of more my age and older.
Yeah, sure thing. So I can certainly come back on that, on the source. Actually, I will follow up with that. I don't have that in front of me right now, but we can get that back to hopefully the person who asked that question. But yeah, I mean, in terms of how to adapt to that target audience, we've again, I think it goes back to just keeping this really simple. Perhaps myself as a millennial as well, I think maybe our attention spans aren't quite what our seniors are. So we look for information. We want to find it quicker. We want to find it easier. It's about keeping the process of getting them engaged to getting an application submitted in that first instance as easy as possible, empowering them with the ability to present themselves through video, as we talked on, making sure we're communicating with them throughout. These guys need to feel the love. So means of doing that easily through the workflow. Potentially even leveraging things like SMS messaging that could be supporting with that. So it's an ever prominent communication that they're receiving, and ultimately keeping these guys relatively sweet, because these are also people that are going to voice their dissatisfaction through the likes of social media and Glassdoor, for example.
That is a key difference, isn't it? That's definitely a key difference, isn't it, is that people are able to put their opinion about your recruitment process out there very, very quickly in a way that previous generations, even if they could have done, might not have done. A couple of other interesting questions here. Firstly, I love this question. What recruitment software would you recommend using? I would click on the attachments for the person that asked that question. Have a click on the attachments, follow some of the links, and I think you might work that one out for yourself. There was one here. Let me just find this one again. Here we go. Yeah, it was about. This is interesting. It was about talking about references, James. What's the current view of references and referencing? And is this one of the issues that slows the recruitment process down?
Yeah. So I guess from different variations, I think we can we put ourselves to make it easy to integrate with background checking and reference checking vendors. It can certainly slow down a process if an organisation insists they have to have that reference returned to them before they will extend an offer or potentially even have that new hire start. But I think again through leveraging technology to make that really simple, making sure we capture the reference details accurately, making sure we get that reference straight out to the referee for a response, making sure we're chasing them, automating that process so that they are kind of being reminded continuously that we do appreciate their response there. Again, keeping it really simple for them to provide that through a piece of technology. Again, we can reduce the time that it takes to complete that, taking it outside of what might have been previously a manual process, offline, kind of using emails or dare I say kind of letters, and we can definitely expedite that part as well as other areas of recruitment that we've talked about today.
Sure. I mean, I guess this question is linked to that as well, which is this question comes in. Hiring can take a long time when there is a need for safer recruitment checks. So this is less about referencing, more about safeguarding. And obviously, we've had an issue in London currently. I think a lot of people in London, 3.5 million people, are very fond of using Uber. And Uber have obviously recently had a case whereby their safeguarding practices in recruitment have been challenged, and it's been one of the reasons why their license in London is under threat. Again, talk a little bit, James, just very quickly. I think we're going to have to make this our last one now, about industries in which your clients have worked where safeguarding is a part of that time to fill problem as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, good question. So we do work with a number of government bodies, more so perhaps in the US right now. And of course, security, as you can imagine, is a hot topic. And again, I guess I'm going to fall back on the fact that we're trying to keep or trying to implement a process which is going to kind of respect that there can be time involved in certain background checking. So again, it's about kind of engaging the candidate, keeping these guys warm, if you will, during these processes, providing them with details about your business so that they can kind of accelerate their learning, so they can kind of begin embracing your organization, and join the company, hit the ground running. So whilst we perhaps take some time over these steps in that latter end of your recruitment, or maybe even if it's done up front, let's make sure we're keeping our candidates engaged, making sure we're kind of making up for any lost time so that they can hit the ground running when they join the organization.
Brilliant. James, we've come to the end of our hour. Thank you so much for all of your time this morning, and I'm desperately sorry to the people that sent in questions that we didn't get to answer, but we will try and I'm sure if you look at the attachments and you go onto HR Review as well, we will have some of the answers to some of the questions as part of what you can read on there. I've just got time to tell you that our next webinar on the 15th of November is with My Family Care. We're back partner with them again. We're going to be talking about parental coaching, and that is on the 15th of November, so please do subscribe for that, and I'll look forward to speaking with you again then. But from the meantime, from James and from myself from London, goodbye, and thank you so much for listening.